Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Ducksy Gaming and the fourth episode of Hunting for a Mageblood. In this video, we're going to be farming and building incursion temples, and I'm going to show you how you can make a ton of currency if you know what you're doing. So the strategy I settled on this time was, again, trying to get things that I can turn over fairly quickly that sell for good money, but this time I wanted to avoid TFT. I wanted to try and do something where you can sell everything on trade. Now, caveat, you will get more money if you sell your incursion temples on TFT, but they do sell really well on trade as well. So what I've decided to go for as a main focus of this strategy is building Alva Temples. So we're not going to be running the big juiced Alva strategy. This is just normal Alva building temples and selling it because I want to show you that you can still make a pretty decent amount of currency. Alongside that, we're going to put in ritual, but we're just going to be fishing for the Nameless ritual to get King of the Mist invites. Other than that, we're not going to complete them. Once we can see what the type of ritual is, if it's not the King of the Mist one, we're carrying on. We are still keeping the lab trials in the improved lab trials to try and get currency that way. We are keeping in Delve so that we can turn our Sulphite into Azurite every now and again. We're keeping the chance to try and get Incarnation of Dread to get the big invitations to drop. And we're doing increased chance to drop maps, scarabs, and then memory tear maps. That's kind of it. It's a fairly straightforward strategy, which I'll run through a bit later on in the video. But again, we're just trying to keep it as quick as possible, other than going into the incursions, completing them, and working out how you want to build your temple. I'll go through the Atlas tree, the scarabs that you need, and how to run the maps later on. But first, we'll delve into incursion a bit more. So let's go over incursion, as it's a mechanic that when you know what you're doing, it's really profitable. If you don't, it's probably the worst mechanic in the game for currency making. Incursions are temples that you can build when you encounter Alva in your maps. Each time you encounter her, she'll open up a portal to a temple, and you can alter the layout of this temple by killing mini bosses and opening up pathways. The temples always start with random rooms randomly connected at either tier 0 or tier 1. Rooms can go all the way up to tier 3, and the rewards get better the more you upgrade the rooms. There are lots of different rooms which serve different functions. If you want to know the full list, I've linked a cheat sheet in the video description, but we really only care about 3 different rooms, and we'll go on to these in a moment. Before we do, let's go over how to upgrade or change each room as you go through an incursion. So when you click on Alva in your maps, it will pause the game and she'll bring up an image similar to this. It will tell you to kill one boss to upgrade the room. It will tell you to kill another boss to change that room to a different room type. All you need to know is the boss that spawns on the right hand side of the temple, you kill to upgrade. The boss that spawns on the left is the one you kill to change. You can only kill one boss. That's all you need to know. A temple room is just a small room full of monsters. At least one monster in the temple will be holding a key. You sometimes get 2, and they'll drop them when they die. These keys are used to unlock the passageways between rooms, which is pretty important, as a valuable room is no good if you can't access it. You want to try and get as many connections in your temple as you can. During the incursion, you can bring up a mini-map by pressing V, and it will help you pick what door you need to unlock. We don't care about the actual rewards in the incursion, we just care about getting the right temple rooms. So all you need to do when you're in these incursions is kill enough enemies to collect your key, kill the architect that you need to kill, unlock a door, and leave. You don't need to full clear the room. In terms of the rooms you're looking for, there's 2 that are high value. There's a room at tier 1 which is called Corruption Chamber. At tier 2 it upgrades to Catalyst of Corruption, and at tier 3 it upgrades to the Locus of Corruption. And this is the room that we're looking for. It sells for 1.7 to 2 divines in bulk. This room allows you to double corrupt an item, so it's always in high demand. The second valuable room starts as Gemcutter's Workshop. It upgrades to Department of Thaumaturgy, then it upgrades at tier 3 to Doryani's Institute. This room lets you double corrupt a gem. It's around 0.7 divines if this is the only valuable room you've got in the temple. If you've got them both, if you're happy to wait, you can sell them for 2.2 divines in bulk. These are the only reward rooms you care about. Everything else, if they're not rooms you're interested in, always kill the architect on the right to upgrade the room. There's one more room which can play an important role, which is called Temple Nexus at tier 3. This upgrades all the surrounding rooms by 1 tier, whether they're connected by a pathway or not. This means you can push a T2 room up to T3. The lower tiers of the room give you a chance to upgrade 1 to 2 connected rooms. Now this room is obviously more situational. If your rooms are already T3, it won't do anything. and to it to have an effect on lower tier rooms, it has to be next to the room in question. Your entire temple run should basically just be looking to change or upgrade both the corruption rooms discussed. You get 12 room attempts each temple. Once you complete those, Alva will itemize the temple for you and you can collect it. With the Atlas tree we've got set up, you will encounter Alva 4 times per map. So in 3 maps, you're going to have completed a temple. However, one important tip is that the same room can't be offered twice in the same map. So if you enter your first incursion and you get to upgrade your corruption room or switch to a corruption room, it can't do it again in that map. So for those situations, you're better off porting out of the map, putting another map in and starting again, because it will give you more chances to get that corruption room. That's kind of the basics of what you need to know. All you're doing is running your rooms, waiting for the option to either change to a corruption room or upgrade one of the corruption rooms. I'll go through one last tip before I go through how to give yourself the best chance of getting the T3 rooms. There is an Incursion Scarab called Scarab of Timelines. This Scarab drops an itemized temple when you kill the last architect in a map. So you only want to use this Scarab when you're completing your last temples. This temple will have the same layout and room types as your current temple, but the room tiers will be random. I personally run these on every single temple when I'm going to itemize it on that last map. Even if I don't yet have the corruption room, it doesn't mean I'm not going to unlock it in that map. These Scarabs cost 15C. If you already have a corruption room on your temple, you have a 1 in 3 chance of dropping a temple with a tier 3 corruption room. And these, as I've said, are 1.7 to 2 divines, and the Scarab costs 15C. It's a no-brainer. Every time you can see you've got 4 or less temples left to run, when you put in your map, put in one of these Scarabs as well. When you do the last temple and kill the architect, it will drop as part of the loot explosion when you leave. So even though it may seem kind of trivial upgrading rooms you're not interested in, all we're going to do is borrow that tier when we switch the room. So it's really important. Never ever switch room unless it's to one of the rooms that you need. Every other time you're just killing the boss on the right hand side. It's nice and easy. Our Atlas tree also gives us 50% chance to double upgrade when we kill the monster to upgrade the room. So what this means is half the time when you kill the monster to upgrade, it will go to tier 3 instead of tier 2. Now it all sounds quite complicated, but once you get used to it, the temples are actually very easy, and you'll end up with a lot of T3 corruption room chambers and temples for the most part. If this sounds too confusing, I recommend just giving it a go, trying a few temples. Doesn't cost you anything, Alva's going to be free. Then come back and rewatch this part of the video if there's things you're not sure about. Once you get into a rhythm and you've done it for half an hour to an hour, it becomes second nature. I haven't ran Incursion for a long time. I struggled a bit in the first half hour. Then once I understood the kind of routine of just looking for your upgrades, using the Scarab, I made an absolute ton of money. So before we go on to the loot, let's go over the Atlas tree and how to run the maps. We're keeping Niko, so essentially we're taking nodes so that when we get Sulphite, we've got a chance to get the same amount in Azurite. The only 2 nodes we're taking are Niko basically gives you a buff, and then we're taking a 10% chance to get Azurite. I don't think it's worth going all the way over here just to get double Sulphite and a little bit more extra Sulphite. I think the nodes are better off on Scarab drop chance. We are taking the improved lab trial chance, so essentially you've got a chance to get a lab trial in your maps. If you find one, there's a 20% chance that's an improved one, and they can be worth quite a lot of currency. Outside of that, we're taking map nodes again, so it's shaping the mountains, shaping the skies, and also shaping the world, and then the small nodes around it. We are reducing the chance to get Incarnation of Fear and Incarnation of Neglect if we find a memory tear in a map, because Incarnation of Dread is the most expensive. We're also taking some nodes to boost maps having a chance to have memory influence because they sell for decent money. Outside of that, it's Ritual and Incursion. The reason for Ritual is really just to look for jackpot items. We're not completing the rituals unless they're the Nameless ritual, which is the King of the Mist one. You'll know it because you'll hear him laughing when you start killing some monsters. It'll also say on the ritual what type it is. These are the ones that can drop the invitations to King of the Mist. These are about 2 divines each. You won't have to complete these unless you find that ritual. So most of the time, these won't really affect your map. They'll just give you a few more monsters to kill. You only have to go through the grind of actually interacting with ritual if you come across the particular ritual. And then we're also going for Incursion because that's really what this strategy revolves around. I don't really need to go through the ritual nodes. They don't really do much. They just give us more tribute and more chance to defer. There's nothing really important in those nodes. The only thing I will say is don't take Immutable Dogma, which I unfortunately had allocated in the only King of the Mist I found, which allows you to get 100% more tribute from the monsters you kill, but then you can't re-roll. So I essentially had one King of the Mist invitation offered in the first window. I couldn't re-roll. So I think that's a wasted opportunity. What you would normally do when you come across these rituals is you would just defer everything you can until you run out of currency, and then you'll buy it over time in the next few maps. And then if we go through Alva, there's not really many important nodes. This node I would drop, Treasure Hunt. It gives you some chests in your incursions that it says are valuable rewards. They're junk. They're like bubblegum currency most of the time. I think it's a waste of a point. I think this would be better in Scarabs, but we do need the percentage chance that lead up to it. These ones here again are just percentage chance for Alva. We have this node here and this node here, so it's contested development and resource reallocation. These are the important ones to understand. I sort of touched on it earlier in the video. Essentially what they do is if you kill the architect on the right, this node here, you've got a 50% chance with this small node included to upgrade the room twice. So instead of upgrading to tier 2, it'll upgrade to tier 3. This node here means if you kill the one on the left, that whatever tier the map is currently or the room you're in is currently, it will add it to the room that you change it to. We're taking incursions, always have 4. That's really important because it means less maps to complete your temple. And then this, you don't really need to take. It puts a flesh merchant in your map. It's basically an enemy that sort of disappears. It's like a wraith type spirit. It apparently drops items. Again, in the loot explosions, I've not noticed anything. For 1 point, it's probably worth taking. It's certainly much better than a terrible cursed treasures. And the only other thing we're doing is we're taking increased chance to get ambush scabs just in case we get a scab of containment, which I think I did drop one in my playthrough. So that's kind of it for the Atlas tree. It is delve, ritual, incursion, looking for memory tears, and then kind of maps, lab trials. That's it. There's quite a lot packed into it, but again, it's trying to keep the maps as quick as we can, knowing that we've got to go into 3 to 4 incursion temples. For the first 10 maps I ran, I actually had strong boxes instead of ritual, but it just took too long and I didn't get anything any good from the first 7 or 8 maps. And the maps were taking like 8 minutes each to complete. So I decided to drop the strong boxes completely and then just run ritual. The tree is in the video description. In terms of mapping supplies, you don't need anything other than a Sulphite Scarab. You need your map, which you want to run rare. You're going to run whatever influence you want, and then you're just going to run the map. As I said, once you get to within 4 incursion reveals of completing your temple, that's when you want to go to Faustus and you want to buy one of the incursion scarabs. So if we go incursion, it's Incursion Scarab of Timelines, and these are still 12 to 13 chaos. Just run them every time you're going to drop or finish your completed temple. It's worth doing. Even if you get unlucky and don't get a corruption room, you've only spent 13 chaos. You'd be kicking yourself if you didn't buy one, you got a corruption room and you've missed out on the chance of an extra 2 divines. So the way you're completing the maps, you are just running, doing Alva, picking up the Sulphite, looking at Ritual. If there's not a good one, you could ignore it for the rest of the maps. You can kill the boss if you like. It doesn't really matter though. We're really in there to get Niko and get the incursions and then just get out. That's all there is to it. We're going to try and keep it nice and simple, nice and quick. So in terms of loot, I ran this for 3 hours. I don't know the number of maps because it varied. The first hour was really slow because I had strong boxes. The next 2 were a bit better. I dropped 13 incursions with the T3 corruption room. 5 of them had the T3 Doryani's room. I dropped a few scarabs worth some currency. I dropped, smatterings of odd currency here and there. We ended up with 2.5 divines worth of resonators, 1 King of the Mist key because I messed up the ritual, and we didn't get any of the improved lab trials. This is the dump tab from this specific farm. So all of this stuff is stuff that I dropped in the 3 hours playtime. I've sold a lot of the scarabs, a lot of the bad ones that aren't worth anything, I've just put into my overall dump tab. So we're sitting on 5 T17 maps. These are the least valuable because everyone runs Canyon. These are literally, they're probably only like a divine for 5 maps. These maps are probably more expensive, which is just originator maps. They're probably like 50 to 60C each. 38 raw divines after we've sold everything. And then a few chaos here. So overall, value-wise, you're probably looking at 42 to 43 divines in 3 hours. So not as profitable as the last strategy. And honestly, not as fun to run. It was a little bit annoying to run and micromanage the temples. But it is something that's always going to get you guaranteed money because corruption chambers are always going to be in demand. And you do get them fairly often. Was it as good as the last strategy? No. Is it a decent strategy? Yes, because it doesn't cost anything again. Map-wise, I run Canyon because it means I can just horizon any T16 into Canyons, so I'll never have to go to trade to buy maps. So if we go and put just the currency, I'll keep the maps and stuff in here for now. We'll go and put this into our main currency tab for this strategy. And then we're sitting on 144 divines. So getting there. I think a Mageblood is about 220 divines. We are now sitting on 144. So we've probably got, I would think, 3 more episodes to go and we'll have Mageblood. So I need to have a think about what I want to do for those 3 episodes. Time-wise, I would think we're about 10 hours played. Maybe slightly more, maybe 10 and a half. And we're sitting on about 146, 147 divines worth of currency. And probably about 10 divines worth of other stuff that I'll probably liquidate at the end of the next video, because I don't think I'm going to do any T17 farming. Don't think I'm going to do boss maps, and I don't think I'm going to do anything with originator maps, just because I don't want to super juice because my character's quite weak and these just sell for decent money. That's kind of it for this video. It's a bit of a different one because less highlights, less loot, and more how to do the strategy, because if you don't fully understand it, you will literally gain nothing from this strategy. You learn very, very few currency, but once you understand how it works, you'll be turning over divines fairly regularly. Thank you very much for watching. Take care and see you in the next one.